there for you, so you put in your width there, 2 meters 80. The next variables that we've got, the next one is depth. So you can write that one in. Depth, the equipment that you need is a meter ruler. So can anyone describe for us how I should use this to measure the depth of our river? Stick it in the water, exactly. Stick it in. There we go. Measure the depth. 19 centimetres. Good job, Doug.
Measure it along.
Perfect. Measure it along the transect line at intervals. How many intervals should we have? 10. Yeah, we are going to go for 11 actually. 10 across the way, but 1 at the bank, which is effectively 0. So 0 and then 1 to 10. Okay. So we're going to have approximately 10 intervals in the river. How would we know what the interval is going to be? Could we use the width that we've already measured?
Divided by 10.
Divided by 10. So we're going to have 2 meters 80 divided by 10. That will give us 28 centimeters. That is going to be, for this particular transect, that is the interval. Okay. So that's all quite important. So in the overall sampling strategy, you need to write down that to get your systematic sampling strategy, you divided your width by 10, and that gave you a set interval to go along and measure. So your overall sampling strategy is a systematic, because you've got a system to it, every 28 centimetres in this case, so there's a system. It's interrupted, so you're leaving a gap, alright? Why is that okay or allowed to leave gaps? Because it is okay.
How many things that much?
Yeah, you've taken 10 samples. Hopefully that will be enough for a good representation of the depth of the river. If you only took 1 in the middle, it's not really a good representation of the river's depth or shape if you just draw the cross section. However, by taking 10 measurements along the way, it's a good word to write down. You can justify the method, it's more representative. So it's a systematic, interrupted point transect, because you're taking every measurement at a particular point, every 28 centimetres, for example. So SIPT, systematic, interrupted point transect along the way. Can you justify why you've used a systematic transect? Why not just go, I don't know, randomly up and down the river, measuring the depth here and there, and stones over here, stones over there? Why have you opted for the systematic?
More valid result. More valid result.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, perhaps. So your results are more valid, but why? What makes them more valid doing it this way?
We're just doing it in one particular place, not.
So you're doing it in one particular location. Your aim is looking at how a river channel changes as you go downstream. So a channel is this section, it's the cross section through. If you're going up and down, you might not get the full extent of the channel shape and stones across the channel. You might just randomly go for the stones near the bank. So systematic approach helps in getting the whole channel covered in a good representative way. But it also removes
Bias.
Yeah, well done. Systematic approaches remove bias. You have to go to wherever your system dictates. Even if that means, oh man, it's a really deep spot over here, you've got to measure there because it's 28 centimetres along. So you can't be biased away from those areas in theory. The systematic approach is telling you where to go. So that's a good justification for it. So in order to measure the depth systematically, in the front of your bag, little zip pouch, we have some pegs And what you're going to do is you're going to place your first peg where the river starts. So not at the peg here, but at the start of the bank here where the river begins. So that will be your 0, if you like. You can then measure the depth right next to the peg. 4.5 centimetres. Then you're going to measure 28 centimetres in this case, but yours will probably be slightly different, which is to here. So you mark that with another peg, you do another 28 centimetres from there to there. Mark that with another peg. And so you systematically work your way across, so you don't lose your spots. Once you've done this one, you can take this one away and you go in another 28 centimetres along like that. So you work your way down. You should, in theory, get right to the end, right at the other side of the bank, and that would be your 11th. When you measure the depth, how would you do that to ensure an accurate measurement? What would you need to do with the meter ruler?
Make it straight.
Yeah, so you're holding it vertically, straight up. Sounds like, you know, pedantic, but to attain full marks of describing a method, you've got to describe it like an alien landed, how exactly you did it. So you're holding it straight up, vertically. Does it matter which way you hold the ruler? Sort of this way on, that way on? Doesn't make so much difference perhaps there. If you're in a faster place, I don't know what you think.
Slows it down.
Yeah, it's slowing the velocity down, but also there's a tiny little wave that's building up because there's a big flat area. If you hold it like a shark's fin, then the water streams past it nice and sensibly, if you like, and nice and clearly, so you can then obtain a more accurate reading by holding it like that. Is it enough to measure from this height? We've got 20 centimetres deep. Can I do it from there? No, shouldn't do. Something creeps in, an error called parallax error. So you're looking at something from a different angle, and so you actually get an inaccurate reading by taking it from here. So you kind of have to either get really low down, or sometimes the best thing to do is run your finger down until you get to the water and then bring it out, and it's not 20 centimetres but it's 20.5, so you can be more precise and accurate by doing it like that. So that's your depth. Why would you measure the width and the depth? What's your justification for getting width and depth in your river? You get anything from that? You could, maybe, we've got something else to measure the wet perimeter, but you're thinking along the right lines, Lucas. The cross-sectional area, yeah, so average depth and the width would give you the cross-sectional area. Yeah, well done. The next thing you're going to measure is the stone size.